Okay, for this next lesson here, this is all about asking powerful questions. I got to say, some of the most amazing and impactful coaches that I've ever worked with are coaches that know how to ask deep and profound questions that move the needle, that shift your perspective, that gets you to look at the other side of the coin. It's really about exploring more in your life and thinking in a different way. See, I live by the rule that you can't make people think what you want them to think, but you can encourage them to think in a different way. So one way we can do this is by, and this is something that we can control as coaches, is by being curious. As a coach, it's important to be genuinely curious about your clients' experiences. You want to understand their thoughts. You want to understand their feelings. And curiosity helps you to ask questions that explores new ideas and perspectives. And the truth is, you don't know everything about your client. Get really curious about that. Like, hey, I wonder where this person came from. I wonder what they think about day to day. I wonder how they feel about this and that, right? Like, this is a great frame to hold as a coach. Getting curious about your client is going to unlock so much, not just for them, but also for you too. We explored asking open-ended questions like what and how or why, and just really avoiding these like yes-no sort of questions or yes-no sort of answers. You don't want that in play. You want to be able to get them to peel the layers back a bit more and go deeper and deeper. Avoid leading questions as well. You want to be able to get your client to think differently. If we're just asking leading questions, then it's really going to set them up, your clients up, to stick to a bias. So you want them to think about it in a different way. When you ask an open-ended question or a challenging question or a question that gets them to think deeper than how they usually think. You want to also use reflection and paraphrasing, which I mentioned in the lesson beforehand, in the active listening lesson. You can listen to that there to understand how to do that. But it's really reflecting back what your client has said to see if there's anything else that's there, right? You want to also explore multiple perspectives. You want to see, is there anything else to this other side of the coin? Or is this thing that we're holding here a bit of a Rubik's Cube? Do we want to have a look at a few different angles here? Sometimes you can encourage them to think from a different perspective. You could ask them, well, in 5 years' time, do you think that you will think the same way about this? If you had an extra $50,000 in your bank account, how would you handle this challenge that you're currently facing, right? So see how you're getting them to explore different perspectives so they can see, well, maybe it's a money issue. Maybe it's a money mindset struggle that I'm having. Maybe it's a lack of resourcefulness, right? There's so many different things that could come up when you start to use some different perspectives. And that's great because that's more for you to work with as a coach. You want to also get them to share specific examples. This is a great way to ask a powerful question. If they share something, you could ask them, well, can you give me an actual example of a time where you felt this way? Or could you give me a measurable number or a certain date or time that we can stick to this goal so that we can see this through? You want to hold them accountable, put the ball back in their court, and even just to get more information or more intel yourself as a coach, you want to ask specific questions, get them to be specific about what they're struggling with so that you can find out whether or not there's something else here, right? Because often coaches that I work with, when I listen back on their sessions, I say to them, hey, you're assuming here. You're assuming that you've already got all the information, but you haven't even asked your client to give you specific details. You've just taken it with face value and taken it with that tiny little bit of info and thought to yourself that you already have the answer. So it is good for you as a coach to practice seeing if there's anything else that you could specifically grab with more specific information from your client that will support you with more to play with, okay, to be able to support your client more. And then the last thing I would say is you want to follow your client's lead. I often say that you are the passenger in the car. Your client is the driver. Your client is driving along. And sometimes they may feel like what they're exploring or what they're diving into is just too much and it's overwhelming. So you want to pull the car over and you're in the passenger seat saying, okay, it's all right. We can just stay here for a little bit. We don't need to dive any deeper just for a little bit. Maybe we can look at it from a different perspective, or I can ask you another question. Instead of what, maybe we could dig into why or how, or maybe we can explore something else that you think may be related or associated to you struggling with this. And then we can come back to that, right? And you want to use this intuition, it's the gut feeling, right? Your unconscious is your body, the body is the unconscious. You're getting this feeling, you're picking up on something here. And sometimes it's just to follow what your client is sharing. So we don't always have to be leading all the time. We can let our client divulge what is showing up for them as they explore their feelings, their emotions, their behaviors, their memories, their habits, and their perspectives and ideologies, their beliefs. So see, we can keep going on and on. Their thoughts, right? This is going to give you a lot of intel to play with. And then from there, you can ask, well, why do you think that's showing up for you? Or when did that start showing up? Or what is it that excites you about that? See how these are open-ended questions that allows for more expansion from the intel or the answers that your client has given you. So this is how you become really good at asking powerful questions as a coach. That's in a nutshell, obviously without all the technicalities. If you want to learn the deeper, powerful questions and the reframing strategies and a lot of tools around great communication and what to ask your clients, I've got a whole list of them in my Influential Coach course, and you would learn how to do that if you jumped into that. But for now, like, this is a good thing for you to work with. So anyway, I hope that was helpful.